There was a boy who failed so many times that even failure itself seemed to recognize his name. Not because he wasn't trying, but because nothing ever seemed to work for him. His name was Daniel, and if you had met him back then, you probably wouldn't remember him. He wasn't loud, he wasn't confident, he wasn't talented in any obvious way. He was just there, the kind of person people forget. Daniel was born into a small family that lived in a quiet, struggling town, the kind of place where people didn't talk about dreams. They talked about survival. Every day was about getting by, paying bills, finding food, making it to tomorrow. And in that kind of environment, dreaming felt dangerous. His father believed that strongly. "Dreams don't feed you," he would say almost every night after coming home from work. He wasn't a bad man. He was just tired. Tired of life. Tired of struggle. Tired of hoping for things that never came. So he stopped hoping. And without realizing it, he passed that mindset to his son. As a child, Daniel was curious. He used to imagine himself becoming someone great. Sometimes a businessman. Sometimes a leader. Sometimes just someone who mattered. But every time he spoke about it, the response was always the same: laughter. Be realistic. People like us don't become those things. You're dreaming too much. At first, it didn't bother him, but over time, those words started to stick, like tiny cracks forming in his confidence. School wasn't any easier. Daniel struggled to understand lessons that seemed simple to others. While other students answered questions with confidence, he hesitated, not because he didn't want to try, but because he was afraid of being wrong. And when he was wrong, the laughter was always waiting. That kind of laughter doesn't just hurt in the moment. It stays. It follows you home. It whispers to you at night, "You're not good enough." Slowly, Daniel began to withdraw. He stopped raising his hand, stopped asking questions, stopped trying as hard. Not because he didn't care, but because it felt safer not to try than to fail in front of everyone. Years passed like that, quietly. Nothing changed. Until one day, something inside him broke. It wasn't a big moment. There was no dramatic event, no sudden tragedy, just a quiet realization. Daniel was sitting alone, watching people his age move forward with their lives. Some were learning skills, some were starting businesses, some were building something. And him? He was still in the same place. That's when it hit him, hard. What am I doing with my life? That question didn't leave him. It followed him everywhere. It sat with him when he ate, walked with him when he moved, stayed with him when he tried to sleep. For the first time, Daniel felt something different. Not fear, not sadness, but frustration. Deep, painful frustration. And that frustration turned into something powerful. A decision. I can't keep living like this. The next morning, Daniel woke up with a different mindset. Not confident, not motivated, just done with his old life. He didn't make a big plan. He didn't have everything figured out. He just decided to start. He picked something simple, learning a skill. At first, it was difficult. Everything felt confusing. He made mistakes constantly, and that old voice came back again. "You can't do this. This isn't for you. You're wasting your time." But this time, something was different. He didn't stop. Instead, he told himself something new. "Maybe I don't understand it yet, but I will." That word, yet, changed everything. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. There was no success, no recognition, no reward, just effort and failure. Daniel failed again and again and again. Sometimes he wanted to quit. Sometimes he almost did. But every time that thought came, he remembered something. If he quit, he would go back to the life he hated, and that scared him more than failure. So he kept going. There were nights when he sat alone in silence, wondering if all of this was pointless. There were days when nothing worked, no matter how hard he tried. There were moments when he felt completely lost, but something inside him refused to give up. Not because he was strong, but because he had reached a point where giving up was no longer an option. Slowly, something began to change. Not his results, not his situation, him. He became more patient, more focused, more disciplined. He started to understand something most people never do. Growth doesn't feel good. It's uncomfortable. It's frustrating. It's slow. But it's necessary. One day, after months of effort, an opportunity appeared. It wasn't big. It wasn't obvious. In fact, most people would have ignored it. But Daniel didn't, because now he was paying attention. He took the opportunity, gave it everything he had, and for the first time, something worked. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't huge, but it was real, and that small success changed everything. Because for the first time in his life, Daniel saw proof that he could do it. That moment gave him something he had never truly had before, belief. And once you have belief, everything changes. From that point on, Daniel moved differently. He still failed, he still struggled, but now he didn't doubt himself the same way. Failure became part of the process, not the end of it. Step by step, he kept going. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but always forward. People began to notice, not at first, but gradually. The same people who once laughed started watching. The same people who doubted started asking questions. What changed? How are you doing this? But Daniel knew the truth. Nothing magical happened, no secret formula, no lucky break, just one simple decision, repeated every single day, to not quit. Years passed, and Daniel's life changed. Not overnight, not instantly, but steadily. He built something for himself, a life that once felt impossible. And one day, he looked back at the boy he used to be, the boy who was afraid, the boy who was invisible, the boy who almost gave up, and he realized something powerful. That boy was the reason he made it. Because without the struggle, there would be no strength. Without the failure, there would be no growth. Without the pain, there would be no purpose. And in that moment, Daniel understood something that most people spend their entire lives trying to learn. Success is not about talent. It's not about luck. It's not about being perfect. It's about refusing to stop. So if you're listening to this right now, feeling stuck, feeling lost, feeling like nothing is working, understand this: you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not finished. Your story is still being written, and one decision, one small step, one more try could change everything. So don't quit. Not today, not tomorrow, not when it's hard, not when it hurts. Because the only way you truly fail is when you stop trying. And if Daniel could rise from nothing with no support, no talent, no advantage, then so can you. Your time is coming, but only if you keep going.